So there's been a little bit of a debate on social media the past few days, and a lot of this stems around the Montreal Canadiens and what some Canadiens fans are responding to when it comes to the newest top prospect in the organization. He needs no introduction. We are talking about Ivan Demidov once again, and the notion as to whether or not Demidov will actually play with the Habs in the upcoming 24-25 season. Now, that's a big bombshell of a topic to start out this entire video with, but I think it's appropriate because when it comes to this player, this prospect, and, quite frankly, this team, there is a lot of excitement and a lot of Canadiens fans that would go out there and say, hey, you know, if this guy surprised us, if he put himself in a spot to be a Montreal Canadien right away, 5th overall in the draft, ends up making the team straight after in training camp, then okay, that would be a crazy story. Habs fans would be super excited. Everybody in Montreal would have a story to talk about. But the thing is, when it comes to Demidov and his situation, let's just say, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because the idea of Ivan Demidov making the NHL right away has been discussed and written about by a bunch of people in the Montreal market, but it's also been discussed by a bunch of people outside of Montreal. And I think there are a lot of differing opinions about this, and it's ended up in some pretty nutty conversations on social media. So, let's go out there and read this tweet posted by David Calabretta, who does stuff for Dobber Prospects and who had tweeted this out earlier yesterday. I'm told that the Montreal Canadiens are closely monitoring Ivan Demidov's situation with SKA St. Petersburg. Nothing is moving yet, but if he doesn't make the main team, the Habs will try and discuss a fee to try and bring him over. Demidov can very well be a Hab by October if the inevitable happens. The question, asked by Lane Hudson, whom I don't think is actually Lane Hudson, but somebody else, is this a reliable source? Nothing's confirmed, hence why I didn't confirm anything, but the Habs are doing the due diligence and will only have an answer in the coming weeks. But what's your source on that? He's obviously not giving up his source, he just heard something from someone he trusts, and we have to make of that what we will. Now, David Calabretta is not some random guy. He does do work for Dobber Prospects, so I would say that he's probably more involved in the actual prospect world than some random Joe sitting in his computer chair talking into a microphone making YouTube videos about hockey for a living, cough cough like me. But when it comes to this idea, Demidov from the MHL to the Montreal Canadiens, it is interesting because when you talk about SKA St. Petersburg, we had actually made a video about this a few days ago, but I said that the biggest addition and biggest positive for Ivan Demidov for SKA was the fact that Evgeny Kuznetsov of the Carolina Hurricanes had his contract mutually terminated, and the projected report said that he was going to sign with SKA and play over there in 2024-2025. There was the conversation that we brought up on this channel saying, hey, this is going to be awesome because if Demidov plays with Kuznetsov, that's going to be a legit NHL caliber center, sending passes over to this Canadiens prospect, hopefully setting him up, and if they get some extended playing time together throughout the year, this could do very good things for Demidov's development. But in the comments of that video, and in other parts of the web, there have been a lot of people actually expressing concern with Kuznetsov's arrival in SKA, saying, okay, that's an ideal situation where Demidov and Kuznetsov play together, but what if Kuznetsov takes Demidov's spot? Which is totally a reasonable question to ask because we know that KHL teams don't like to give immediate ice time to top-of-the-line young prospects who are poised to go into North America soon, especially SKA St. Petersburg. They never do this. You have to work your way up the ranks, and only once you're like an established veteran or somebody who's really ingrained in the history of Russian hockey, whether it is in the NHL or the KHL, then you're going to be good and you're going to be given top-line minutes and stuff, right? Demidov is not that. He's 18. Not to mention the fact that he had just played in the MHL for the entire year and had a very small cup of coffee in the KHL to end off his draft-eligible season. So, with this news in mind now, if Demidov ends up not making the regular SKA St. Petersburg club, he gets sent down to the VHL or he goes down to the MHL once more, David Calabretta is saying here that the Canadiens are thinking about bringing Demidov over to Montreal early, whether it is to play him in the Laval Rocket or the NHL. Now, I will say, I feel like there is some sort of an expectation that a lot of these Russian guys have when coming over from the KHL, that they will be NHL guys and that they're not going to get time in the AHL, and if they go down there, they'll just revert back to going to Russia, and they'd rather be in Russia rather than the American League. I feel like that's the sentiment that we have seen from a lot of these top-tier Russian guys, but is Ivan Demidov ready for the NHL? Which is also the second part of this entire conversation, which I do think needs to be discussed. This was posted by Cam Robinson on Twitter also yesterday, so after the initial tweet was made by David Calabretta. Here's a fun fact. No one player has ever gone straight from the MHL to the NHL. It would be a similar jump as someone coming out of the BCHL and into the NHL. The Habs would be foolish to rush Demidov if that's even possible contractually. Cam's implication here is that if the Canadiens brought Demidov over from Russia and played him in the NHL right away, it would be rushing the Russian. He played in the MHL for most of the year last season, so to go from that caliber of hockey to a completely faster-paced, tighter, checkier, and just more physical game in the NHL, that would be a huge, huge adjustment. And Cam is saying, hey, it would be similar to somebody going from the BCHL into the NHL. It's an extraordinarily tall task. Now, this is where Mark Dumont goes out there and says this. Did anyone say he'd go straight into the NHL? The Habs want him in the KHL, but they said they'd pivot if that wasn't the case. I don't think that meant tossing him to the NHL directly, but rather the AHL. I don't think a CHL team has his rights. Cam replies that could and should be the case. I've just been inundated with tweets calling for him to go straight to Montreal. Enough that I had to cheekily tweet in late July. Now, this initial tweet was actually reposted a bunch, and a lot of Canadians and prospect fans were pretty pissed off about it. You know, Twitter is always Twitter, right? Everyone's going to disagree about everything. But here was a reply that Cam actually responded to. Yeah, because Jonathan Toews and Cale Makar obviously would have busted if they'd skipped college. This Twitter user is mentioning that because Cale Makar was playing in Junior A hockey, so the AJHL, before going over to college, and then he became an NHL superstar. Jonathan Toews, on the other hand, was also drafted out of the NCAA after suiting up in the American high school systems. And Cam replies, so you just don't believe in development then? That's the stance that you have here? There was another reply saying, hey, there actually was a player who went from the USHL to the NHL. That was Jack Hughes. And then the top reply to this Twitter thread is, hey, but look at his rookie season. Yeah, he sucked. And Jack Hughes really was not good in his first NHL year. 0% wins above replacement number. This is kind of why development is important, man. Like, I'm not going to go out there and make any definitive statements that, oh, the MHL is like this, or it's better than that, or like whatever. But when you see prospects who are at this level, the MHL, have the success that they have, you always have to say, all right, he's in the MHL. MHL guys never make the jump to the NHL right away. This is not the CHL. You will once in a while see a WHL, maybe even a WHL first overall guy make the NHL right away. You will see an OHL guy every few years make the NHL right away. You'll see a QMJHL guy, maybe less frequently, make the NHL right away, but sometimes they will. Alexis Lafreniere is obviously the biggest example of that. But for the Russian junior scene, I think it's very unfair to compare the MHL to the CHL leagues, mostly because the MHL plays such a slower, less checky, and more, I'm just gonna say, irresponsible kind of game. Like, seriously, the MHL has their full hockey games available on YouTube. You can go ahead and watch those for free. They live stream every single game of their league on the internet. Watch 3 MHL games and let me know in the comments if this kind of hockey is comparable to the CHL. I can guarantee you it's not. It's slower, guys don't ever go for hits, guys don't really know how to play defense in that league. So for any doubt, talking about Demidov potentially being an NHL guy after just playing in the MHL, I could totally understand it, and quite frankly, I would agree. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire idea of Demidov coming over to North America if he doesn't make the SKA St. Petersburg KHL team, what that says for his development, and what do you think the right course of action is if he does get sent down in Russia to a lesser league. I personally think the ideal would have him being played either in Laval, or if you can force a loaning situation to a different KHL team, hey, go ahead and try it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.